Angel Heart Radio programs should not be used to replace your legal or medical advice. Welcome everyone to Angel Heart Radio. You are our focus. We want you to know that you matter in the world and that you're important to the world. We're here to remind you of just how valuable and needed you are right now. Help us to help others. If you like what you hear, tell your friends, post, tweet, pin, let everyone know how amazing Angel Heart Radio is. So again, welcome to Angel Heart Radio. Powered by love, Angel Heart Radio is sponsored by AngelLight777.com.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Robyn Mills. I'm so happy to be here today while Annette is jaunting around the world having fun. So we're going to have fun today, and we're particularly going to have fun with Janet, who I know that you all know well because there's lots of people waiting online to hear from her. Good morning, Janet.
Good morning, Robyn. It's nice to talk to you.
I've heard lots of wonderful things about you and your beautiful talents. So I'm really excited about sharing them with you today.
Well, it's always fun to be with Annette on her show, and absolutely going to be fun to be with you, because this sort of talk that we get into is so exciting. It's so exciting to me, and I know that other people enjoy hearing about it as well. And now I get to share that with a completely new person.
That's great, because we're in a time that's really moving fast at the moment. Are you finding that?
Yes, no doubt. Things are moving fast, and sometimes so fast that it seems slow. Does that make sense? You know how sometimes when you catch up to a car when you're on the highway and you've been trying to catch up to them, and then suddenly you're next to them and it all seems to just slow down and you're all going the same speed until again, you get some momentum and you pass them. That's kind of how things have sort of felt for me personally, but also I see it with, all of my different clients where, things are moving and then they seem to come to a stall and then again, they're off and running. So it is sort of crazy making energy that we've been in. And I would say we've been in that since about 2011. So, and I don't see us moving anywhere beyond that until maybe 2023, 2024. So we're in the closing phase of that for sure, but I still think there's some craziness coming. And so everybody be prepared. That's all I can say, right? And astrology helps us be prepared, Robyn, because we can see ahead to what kind of tricky things may be going on. And in that, we have the opportunity to be more conscious about what's going on. Make sense?
It does make sense. And for me, it feels like it's a tool in our toolkit that's going to allow us to understand why we're acting a certain way or why we have certain blocks that feel like they're blocking us in the moment. So it's a wonderful tool, and it's probably a tool I don't use often enough. So I'm excited today to re-explore that with you.
Yeah. And, the nice thing about astrology is, time repeats itself and transits repeat themselves. And every opportunity that we have to have a repeat, and today we're talking about a 12-year cycle on repeat here, we get this opportunity to see how far we've come, to see our general consciousness evolution or how we have evolved as souls from the previous transit. And that's the thing that I find really exciting, is because now if I look back 12 years ago to the last time, today we're going to be talking about Jupiter moving into Sagittarius next month. And, if I look back 12 years to 2006, 2007, then I can get a glimpse into what it is that I've grown through from over the last 12 years. And then I get perspective, right? Sometimes we feel like things are on repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. And they're not really exactly like that, because if you look back, if you're able to look through the looking glass and go backwards in time, you can see how you have changed yourself through the last, in this case, 12 years of a cycle. And that's what makes astrology really exciting. And I think it makes it really effective as a tool for our development as people on the planet. So that's my 2 cents there.
That is great. So let's go to a caller then. And we've got Tom online. Good morning, Tom.
Hi there.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you guys?
Fabulous. Just doing fabulous. Great word, Robyn. So typically, Robyn, I do readings after I've actually presented some material so that people have an idea of what we're talking about. But this is cool because Tom happens to be a buddy, and I've done his chart many times. So I know specifically what he's after. So let's be, I'm okay with this for right now. And then let me, explain a little bit about what Jupiter in Sagittarius will bring to us. And then we can take our other callers. Does that work for you?
Oh, that's perfect. Or would you like me to put Tom on hold and do it the way you usually do it?
No. That's okay, because I think I know, Tom, you're probably looking for what Jupiter in Sagittarius is going to be bringing to you. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the full moon that's coming up is conjunct my natal Venus, and Uranus is playing some tricks probably. He's
always up to his tricks, rebellion and revolution and all kinds of things that we don't expect happen with the planet Uranus. And indeed, it is going to be very, very close to your natal Venus for the full moon, which happens tomorrow. And I don't have the deets exactly of time for you because I wasn't expecting to talk about the full moon today, but I believe it was at 9:46 in the morning tomorrow. Hold on, let me pull a file out here real quick, Tom, because essentially we're already in the setup. We're already in the run-up to this for tomorrow. So, 9:46 a.m. Pacific time, and Tom is in Pacific time with me. And we're looking, Tom, at a point where Uranus may be bringing you surprises in terms of relationships. Like, for example, anytime a planet is retrograde and Uranus is retrograde, it tends to bring people or issues up from the past for us to complete with. And of course, the full moon is all about completion as well. So we have the full moon conjunct Uranus on top of your Venus, and it could be the passing away of money issues. It could be the bringing back to you a relationship, because it's literally happening sort of in the relationship area of your chart. And it can also mean maybe that a caution for you to not get involved in any debt or excessive credit in the next near future, like over the next 30 days or so. To try, if you can, to pay down debt, because the 8th house where this is technically happening is the house of debt and credit and taxes. But it can also be lottery winnings. It can also be money that comes to you from places like annuities or winnings, things that you don't expect. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Like tax refunds, like the government suddenly sending you a tax refund, or you getting a rebate check in the mail, those kinds of things. So in reality, what I could suggest to you is go out and buy a lottery ticket if you have an extra buck or two. I don't know if you guys can do that in Canada and play that $6 billion lottery that's up for grabs tonight. Or even on Friday.
We have our own, but they're like 20% smaller than U.S. dollars.
Well, 20% less of $1.6 billion is still a hell of a lot of money. That's a lot of millions. And it's that kind of unexpectedness that you can expect during this full moon window. And by opposition, then, it is that the sun has moved very squarely into the 2nd house. So your earning power, your self-worth, and everything to do with money is right front and center and uppermost in your mind. As in, you may be feeling like you're not earning enough money. You may be I know you have a specific sort of meeting that's going on tomorrow, and in what happens if, in that case, the meeting goes not in your way, maybe telling you that there's, that job is closing up for the season or something like that. So it's asking you to be prepared, have a plan, to be able to do something else, or at least at the very minimum, not to go into fear over what is going on or what you see out there. Because if you do go into fear about it, then of course you close up and constrict and you close down and, everything contracts. And you have to be able to remain open for opportunities to find you. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Now, I just want to say one more thing to you, Tom, and then I'm going to go on and do my deal.
Oh, yeah, because you were going to mention the Jupiter thingy.
And that's what I want to take a look at here for you, because Jupiter has been transiting in the sign of Scorpio in your third house. And the third house is about communication. Learning how to communicate is the single most important thing for you, because it is the planet of growth that's sitting there. And now Mercury has joined Jupiter in your third house of communication, learning how to be quiet and listen, and then learning how to enter into the conversation. And of course, I'm talking about human design. Robyn, I know you don't know much about that at all yet, but human design with someone like Tom who has an open throat means that you enter into conversations via an invitation. So you wait until somebody recognizes you, and then you get pulled in and you say what needs to be said. Or you can, Tom, as you know, use questions as a way to open up the conversation and get someone to draw you in further into the conversation. But it means that, the biggest thing is for you to remain quiet during someone else's conversation with you. And Jupiter is backing this up for you. Now, when Jupiter changes into Sagittarius, this happens, by the way, November 8th. So very soon. I mean, really, that's literally just 2 weeks away from now. Then it's going to fundamentally shift, and Jupiter then is in a sign of luck. It rules that sign, and so things will change dramatically for you. I think there may be openings for you to speak more, to interact more, to be more of a person that others listen to. So good things are coming to you, okay?
Okay.
Just don't shut down and don't go into fear. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Okay, thanks, because I was on the cusp.
Be on the cusp of happiness and greatness, not on the cusp of fear and depression, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Tom. It was good talking to you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Robyn, for hooking.
Oops, sorry. I cut him off a little bit quick, didn't I?
That's all right. He knows that you meant well.
Let's talk about the changes that are coming.
Yeah, so Jupiter. So let me just give you a little bit of an outline of what I intend on talking about, so people understand, where we're going. So first of all, we need to understand, what does Jupiter mean for us, right? What does it stand for in our charts? And the second thing we need to look at is, what has Jupiter in Scorpio meant for us? What have we learned? Because we still have 2 weeks left of Jupiter in this sign. And even though I'm taking you ahead and looking at what comes next, we're still in the closing phase of this Jupiter in Scorpio. So we really need to understand what it has been bringing to us. And then we'll look at Jupiter in Sagittarius and what that means. And then lastly, I want to take a look backwards, if we can, to world events that occurred the last time that Jupiter was in Sagittarius, so we get an idea of how the cycle may repeat itself. It never repeats exactly, of course. It repeats in a new way. It brings us some of the same themes, but expressed in, hopefully, in a way that's of a higher consciousness. Does that sound good?
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Perfect. So when we're talking about Jupiter, every planet, by the way, and this is just general terms because I know some people may be new and listening for the first time, or, that they've not heard this before, but in astrology, all of the planets serve as an archetypal energy. And the archetypal energy, for example, through Mercury, is that of communication. The archetypal energy of Venus is relationships and our money, the relationship we have to money. When it comes to Jupiter, the archetype there for us is about growth and expansion. Jupiter does things in a big way, and it represents an expansion in our knowledge and understanding of whatever it is that we are expanding towards. So if you're an astrologer like me, there'd be expansion towards more knowledge, perhaps in astrology. If you are someone who's an artist, you may be expanding your art world. So it brings that kind of energy for us. It is also the spiral growth toward consciousness and that evolution that we see in our consciousness level. I believe that Jupiter brings us mastery, or tasks us with gaining mastery in whatever sign it's in. And of course, that is related to what sign it is in your own chart. And also, Jupiter rules luck and optimism and generosity and abundance, and is the ruling planet for the sign Sagittarius, where it is about to move into. So when a planet moves into a sign that it holds rulership over, it is empowered, right? It's wearing its costume of power. And so everything about the expression of that planet in that sign becomes bigger, becomes better. But as we'll see, sometimes bigger and better is a tumor, is cancer, right? We don't want bigger and better running off into the wrong direction. We want growth and expansion that's also sustainable. And Jupiter sometimes is a planet that doesn't know the edge of growth. And so we have to find that out for ourselves in whatever place it is in our charts. So what has it meant for us while Jupiter's been in Scorpio? Because, this has been an interesting year. It moved into Scorpio early last November. And maybe it was even the last week in October. And it has been there now for a year. And while we were dealing with Jupiter in Scorpio, we've been learning about living our passions, living according to our passion. And essentially, if you have, let's say, a business that you absolutely love, right? Cutting out all of the things in that business that are not in alignment with your passion. Because you know how it is, Robyn, in a business. We can get going, and then people say, oh, why don't you add that? And then there's that we can add, and let's do this. And before you know it, you have this big conglomeration of things that maybe were not in alignment with your original intentions for your business. So then Jupiter comes along in Scorpio and starts demanding that you cut those things out, that you pare it down, that, Jupiter typically is about expansion and growth, but in Scorpio becomes much more of a focuser, right? Focusing on what matters. Now, that can be happening in your family. That can be happening in your community. It can be happening, in the nation you live in. But the general atmosphere has been that about cutting out the fluff and focusing down on what's really important. And in Scorpio, Jupiter's not really happy. There's sort of a rawness or an edginess to our interactions as we're less focused on the fair and the polite way to behave with one another, but we are much more about getting down to the bottom of things. So people tend to be a little more raw. I know in this country, we're always shocked by the things that our president tweets out, for example. And that has been the experience for longer than just the last year, but for certain been sort of more heightened over this last year, as it's just shocking at times what things will be said in, social media platforms or even on air. So it's almost like, there's a piece of us that got lost. The polite piece got lost, right? And we have to work harder to maintain that polite social quality that makes us, more kind and generous, right? Because Scorpio's not that way, not necessarily, it likes to, get to the bottom of things right now, and including our values, right? The values through Scorpio have been really much more about being decisive, about the intensity of the interaction, about using willpower, about commitment. And in the expanding knowledge sort of arena, it has been very much our growth on the inner planes, exploring the hidden aspects of ourselves through psychology, perhaps, through the occult or the esoteric, through the metaphysical, in other words, through taboos, through secrets and conspiracies, and the psychology, right? If we use Jupiter in Scorpio the right way, what we've been really able to do is dig down deep into our psyche and to really understand more about what makes us tick as individuals. And in a way, it set us up to be sort of romanced by what I have in quotes, badass characters, like the sort of the thrall of people. You know how when there's an accident or, some kind of thing like that, how people sometimes are just glued. Humans have this tendency to be just glued to the darkness or to the gore or to the seedier side of things. It's like this magnet that draws us in. And we've been sort of romanced over the past year by that kind of character. So if you have a character, in your country that plays that role, you almost seem like you're glued. You can't stop yourself from watching the idiocy of this person or how they're ruining their lives or how the drama and the trauma is playing out. So it's sort of this last year has been really about our ability to sort of look into the darkness, to see that darker side of things. And because Scorpio also rules issues of intimacy and personal relationships, we've also had opportunities to explore this kind of energy. In astrology, we always think of Scorpio as when it's operating in its low frequency or in its less conscious self. It is the scorpion that would rather sting itself to death than to be eaten by its enemy. Astrology, then, where we see that is where maybe in personal relationships, we'd rather be alone than be unhappy in a relationship. So we may see a lot of breaking up kind of things going on with people around us. It's all been about sex. Yeah, sex, money, power, death, crises. All of those have been our themes, right? The themes. In our outer world, mostly.
Certainly I've noticed that there's lots of people breaking up and relationships ending that you may never have thought would end in that last 12 months. So how's that going to change as it moves into Sagittarius?
Well, when it moves into Sagittarius, the energy shifts dramatically. Mostly because signs that sit right next to each other, neighboring signs, do not have qualities that are in common. So where Scorpio is intense and digs into the dark, Sagittarius is completely opposite. It is expansive and it is happy-go-lucky. It is generous and magnanimous energy mostly, and it's also energy of expansion and growth where the energy in Scorpio was, kind of focus in. Let's bring things to a more manageable level. And now we're going to be experiencing just the opposite. So when we're moving, the last time, by the way, that that Sagittarius played host to Jupiter was November 23rd of 2006 to December 18th of 2007. So anybody listening to the show here today, or even, the repeat of the show, can think back 12 years ago to that time and what was going on in your own life at that time. Where were you growing, possibly overgrowing? What was lucky for you? What was happening in your life? Because we're about to see a sort of a version of a repeat, if you will. And when Jupiter's in Sagittarius, what we're really increasing or expanding is our cultural and spiritual awareness. We expand the connection to our consciousness or our higher mind. We adopt a more global or big picture viewpoint. And when I looked back over the last, or the 12 years ago when it was in here, indeed, some of those things were very powerfully showing up in our outer world. faith and trust in a higher power comes back at us and deepens our philosophical or our maybe religious thoughts or our connection to our spiritual beliefs. Now, on the negative side of things, right, remember I said Jupiter grows and expands and sometimes overdoes it, doesn't know when enough is enough in terms of growth. And then things can take a turn to become more like zealotry or becoming more and more self-righteous and taking bigger risks, things like that. So we have to be very aware over the next year of where we might have a tendency to overindulge, overdo, etc. Now, a lot of that is happening because we have this increase in optimism at the same time, right? We adopt a sort of things will work out attitude, so we may be more willing to take chances in the beginning of something because we just have that optimism that everything's going to work out fine, kind of feeling like if it's something that we're doing that's correct or right, then we're somehow protected. And indeed, there is a sense that that's true. But we want to focus on moderation versus being overindulgent or extravagant. So learning what is the difference between moderation and being that, overindulgent kind of energy. And moderation doesn't come easy to Jupiter or Sagittarius, neither one of them, right? They don't do things small. So, think about that as, a field that energy is also infecting all of us. And, nothing is more infectious than joy and exuberance and excitement and optimism, right? But sometimes we can turn that and become overly optimistic toward the wrong things, right? Or to things that aren't really good for us. We can become overconfident and reckless, right? If we end up in the more negative self-righteous zone, we can become know-it-alls, right? We refuse to see the handwriting on the wall as someone's telling us, warning, 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 right? And instead, we're just like, no, we're just going to keep going and going and growing and growing. So we want to learn how to be, in the next year, confident, courageous, and how to take calculated risks. And now, what do I mean by that? So we can become so overly identified over this next period of time with our own opinions, beliefs, and perceptions that we lose sight of reason, right? So to grow and expand best, we have to be confident but cautious. We have to be courageous but cautious. And we have to be willing to take calculated risks without being risky. Right. So I'll give you an example of something, kind of small. Let's say you're a runner, right? And you've been running a mile a day or 2 miles. Let's make it 2 miles a day. You run a mile one direction and you run a mile home. So you run 2 miles a day. And now you've decided that you're going to run the marathon. And without even thinking about how to build up to that, you just go out and you risk it all by joining into this 26-mile marathon. And how do you think your body is going to respond to that? Probably not very happily. You're going to end up with pulled muscles. You're going to end up maybe being ill. You might not even be able to finish the race because the difference between 2 miles a day and 26 miles is a lot, right? But we may not be willing to see that. Right? Maybe I'm young and I'm 25-ish and I just feel like I'm in my prime and I can do this. But in reality, you're being overly optimistic and overly confident. You are being too willing to take a risk. You're entering into riskiness as opposed to the calculated risk. Instead, let's use that same example. You've been running 2 miles a day. The 26-mile marathon is maybe 6 months from now. So you begin to build up. Right? You maybe add a half a mile or a mile a day to your workout routine until you can build up to that 26 miles. Then you run that marathon. See the difference? It's all about perception.
I can see that difference. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
And of course, like I said, that's just a mild sort of way that it can play out. But think about it in response to your business, right? If you decided to grow your business, and you're just going to throw $100,000 out there at your business this year because you want to make it big. And that maybe it's only doing $5,000 a month right now. That's a huge leap.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to say it can't be done, but I do want to say, okay, calculated risks say, okay, I can risk losing something. So maybe instead of 100,000, I can go up to 50,000 because the difference there, if I don't hit 50,000, isn't going to kill me, isn't going to drag my business under. Where that $100,000 leap may indeed do that to you. So it's about being proportional, right? Keeping everything in proportion. And literally, Jupiter in Sagittarius can bring us good fortune. It is like you spun the wheel of fortune and goodness pops out, right? Money pops out, generosity pops out. But good fortune has to be earned. And it comes when we're being generous. It comes when we're being tolerant. And it comes when we're inspired and we're inspirational to others. And it comes when we practice what we preach. We walk our talk, essentially, right? It comes when we have perspective, when we can see the big picture and not get caught up into the minutia. And when we can rise as people above pettiness and being self-righteous and pretending that we're right and everyone else is wrong. So Jupiter, in my experience as an astrologer and as a person, usually brings us beneficial things. It is what we call the greater benefic, by the way. It means that we always expect good things. But in my experience, Jupiter will first show you where you're out of alignment with that growth. Then it gives you that opportunity to course correct. Then you can grow. But up until that time, if you choose to keep growing despite what the world keeps showing you isn't the right way to do it, then you're going to end up in punishment sort of feeling because things are going to blow up on you. And that's the last thing we want to have happen, right, over the course of a year. Yes. So,
now we have lots of callers.
Okay, so let's take, is there anybody new? I know last month I did a reading for Bob. Is there someone out there that's new that hasn't had a reading before that we can talk to?
There certainly is. Let me go to Nikki. Good morning, Nikki.
Good morning.
Hi there.
Hi, ladies. It's lovely to be a part of this broadcast today. Thank you.
You're welcome. And let's see, Nikki, do you want a reading, a mini reading today?
Yes, I would love one. Thank you.
And have I ever done one for you before?
No, never.
Okay. So, Nikki, obviously you're a female. My program is insisting that I check that box. It's crazy. What is your birth date?
The 5th of the 8th, 1972.
Can you say that date again?
The 5th of August, 1972.
August 1972. And do you know what time you were born?
It was around 2:30 a.m.
Okay, so I'm going to use that. And where were you born?
New South Wales, Australia.
And is that a city, New South Wales?
That's a state.
Okay, so what
it was
city?
Hay. It was a small country town called Hay, Hay.
Hay. Oh, look at that. It's in my program.
Wow.
I love it when that happens. Okay, sweetie, so what can I help you with? Are you struggling with something right now, or do you want me to tell you where you're primed for growth in the next year? What can I do for you?
I suppose for me, I've done a lot of personal work on myself in the last couple of years and wanting some guidance or clarity around romance and love. Romance and love.
That's really on the top of everybody's list, right? So it actually has focus in it right now because Venus is retrograde in your 5th house of love and joy and romance and pleasure and, fun. Also, the sun is there and the planet Ceres. She is the goddess of abundance, and she will be there for an extended period of time. So I'm assuming if you put yourself out there in the world in a way that can be, so you could put yourself in the way of love, you could put yourself in the way of relationship, you'll be able to find somebody, or that somebody will be able to find you, right? Does that make sense? Right? If we sit at home, I live on a little island, and literally to get to the grocery store is like a 16-mile trek. And that doesn't seem like very far, but if I don't have the car that day, I can't really just go there, right? So if I just stayed here in my house all the time but expected to find love, I would never find it because I wasn't reaching out. So I would have to put myself in the way of love in this case, or the places where love might be found. And that may even mean that it's and I don't know if you guys in Australia have dating sites, but that may be something that you might want to do as well. Now, if you're currently in a relationship and you want to know about what's going on with that relationship, well, you're about to have Jupiter move through the house of the longer-term relationships, like marriage. So you're really in a good place, perhaps. If you went back maybe 12 years from this time next year, so we'd be looking at November, December of 2007. What was going on in your life then as it relates to relationships?
I was married back then, and I was pregnant with my fourth child.
Nice.
Yeah, and now I'm single. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the possibility in the lead up between now, today, and this time next year, the possibility of entering into another longer term relationship is pretty high, right?
Okay.
Or finding someone, though, of the next caliber. Because remember, evolution, as we were talking about, is like a spiral. So it's not like you're repeating the same thing, hopefully, right? We don't want to always repeat.
No.
We might have the same theme repeating, but we're greeting it from a higher consciousness. And that might mean the next higher caliber of person, or the next the person that is attracted to you is bringing you a higher frequency for you to learn from. Now, your actual natal Jupiter sits at 29 degrees of Sagittarius in the 7th house of relationship and marriage. And that's a karmic degree. And anytime I find a planet in anybody's chart that sits at 29, it is a degree where we know big lessons are going to be learned. Well, wouldn't you know it? Your natal Jupiter is at 29 degrees, as is your natal Venus. And Venus is in Gemini, Jupiter exactly opposite it in Sagittarius. So you are learning about how to combine, curiosity and open-mindedness and depth with a person. So you can't be all into the depth, and you can't all be superficial. So you have to find that happy medium where you have your own life and your own interests, and you allow for that other person to have their own life, their own interests. But where you guys intersect, magic happens. Does that make sense to you?
Okay. Yes.
All right. And that's coming. That is coming. But it's not here yet. So you still have some maybe self-reflection to go through. Your natal Jupiter, or transiting Jupiter is going to hit your natal Neptune here very shortly. And that may mean that you have to do some higher order soul searching, right? Depth. What happened in that last relationship? Why did it break up? And without blaming yourself and without blaming that person, look at it as objectively as possible so that you don't fall into the trap and make the same mistake next time.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. And so what sort of time frame is that coming up? So I've been on my own for 2 years, and I've done a lot of deep internal work on myself. And I'm just at that point where I'm ready now. Before that, I knew I wasn't ready, but now I'm ready to embrace love.
Well, I think you're looking at the fruit of all of that self-reflection and work that you've done on yourself coming up to the surface and allowing you literally here within the next couple of weeks as it transits over your descendant and into the 7th house. So put yourself out there now. Don't wait.
Okay.
Start putting yourself out there. You have to be able to practice all the things that you've learned about yourself and about, how to be in a relationship.
Yes. Oh,
okay.
Wow.
Lots going on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in, Nikki. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound like I interrupted. Thank you very much for calling in, Nikki. And that sounds like amazing
It
reading.
does.
Yeah. There's so much more I could tell you here too, Mickey, but I know there's other people in the queue. But can I just say one more thing to you before Robyn goes on to the next person? And that is, I would be very keen to keep your own authority and not give yourself away in the next relationship. Don't overgive, but don't withhold either. Does that make sense?
Okay. It makes so much sense. That is so
right.
spot on. Thank you so much.
All right. You're
very
welcome.
grateful.
Okay.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That was just so informative, so much to know, Janet.
Yeah, a chart is so deep, right? And everybody's charts have this sort of magical quality to it, where you can sort of see in. And the other magic that happens when we do readings like this is everybody gains something from it, right? Everybody gains because, the themes are human themes. They're not just Nikki themes or Robyn themes or Janet themes or Tom themes. They're everybody themes. So we all learn something from being able to hear what's going on in other people's worlds. So, Good point, right?
Perfect. All right, let's move on to the next caller, and I don't know their name. And their last numbers is 5252.
Hi, hello. Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, who are we speaking to?
My name is Keisha.
Keisha? And Keisha, have we done a reading for you before?
No, never.
Okay, good. That's fine. The only reason I asked that question is because I have my astrology program open, and if I have, then it saves me entering in your birth information. So that's all the reason I asked. So how do you spell your first name, sweetie?
Kasha. It's spelled like Kasha.
Okay, so Kasha, but it's pronounced Keisha. And what is your birth date?
12/26/76.
And your birth time?
6:15 a.m.
And where were you born?
Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, got to put New York first and Brooklyn. I use two different astrology programs. One you have to put in the city first and then the state. And this one you have to do it the opposite way. So I have a Brooklyn in Kings County, and Delaware County. Kings. Okay. Let's do that then. And Keisha, what can I help you with? What are you experiencing right now, or what is it that I can most help you with today?
Okay, I was expecting a question. I don't know. Maybe dating or career, something like that.
Okay, so can it be my choice what we go over?
Sure.
All right. So I want to tell you to spread your wings and spread them as big and as wide as you can, because you are in the midst of a huge growth time. And I don't know what specifically that means for you yet, because I haven't, had the time to really dissect this chart. But what I'm seeing is that the Sun and Venus and Mercury and Jupiter are both, all four of them, moving through a part of your chart that says, get your focus on your vision, on your dream, and dream big, right? And set goals in alignment with that. And on top of that, your natal destiny sits at 1 degree of Scorpio. And guess who's going to be there tomorrow? The Sun. And that means that you're setting yourself up here for a whole new layer of growth and opening yourself up more and more. And Venus retrograde has already crossed over that point one time, is now going to retrograde back over your destiny. And then on November 16th, when she changes back to forward motion, she'll come back yet again over your destiny. So you have a sort of a signature, let's say right now, of getting in alignment with what it is that you're here to do. whether that means completing an education, whether that means really moving powerfully forward in your career choice, whatever that means to you, it's not time for you to put those wings down and land. It's time for you to spread those wings and fly.
That can be so many things.
I know, but it's placed in your career sector. So it makes me think about, that it's really being the two of the planets have come out of the career sector and are now in the goal center, if you will, the goal house. And goals as in, your vision, your bigger dream. And the Sun and Venus are still hanging around in the career. So, maybe they're just helping you focus in more and more about what it is that you want to do. Now, let's have a discussion for a quick moment about career. Are you a working lady?
I'm working, but I'm trying to, there's two things going on with me. I want to start I'm going to do my own business, which is a food business or a dessert business, chocolate business and desserts.
Sign me up.
Yeah, but I'm also trying to pass the bar exam.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Where is your heart in this? Where is your passion?
The chocolate, like the chocolate.
Okay. The food. So sad to say, but remember in the beginning of the show here today, what was I talking about? That the lessons of Jupiter and Scorpio were bringing us? Focusing on what matters, right? Living our passion. Now, if the bar exam and becoming an attorney, because that's what that means, right, that you'd be a lawyer or an attorney, and if that really is only being done because you think it might bring you money or, support you in some way, that's the wrong reason. Now, if you were to tell me that that's what you're absolutely passionate about and that's what you want to do, then I would say, okay, put the chocolate on the shelf for a while.
Right.
Now, if you have already paid to take the bar exam and you've already gotten that signed up and ready to go, I would say go ahead and do it. Right? You're there.
Right.
But I
have the option. I don't know if I want to do it again right away or whatever. Because I kind of like say my food stuff. I've been wanting to do it since I was in law school, but I've been putting everything on hold to do this law stuff, and it hasn't taken off. And I'm like, I want to do what I want to do. I really want to get my food and my stuff out there. So I'm kind of like, maybe I need to just take a break from the law stuff and do what I really, really want to do. And, if I get back to law, I get back to law. But this is my true, this is what I care about the most.
That's all you need to know. You just heard yourself say it out loud. This is what you care about the most, so why are you focusing on the other?
I guess because I spent so much money.
It's only money. It's really only money, which is only an energy form, right? And, you've probably done well as far as that's concerned. And, you've learned a lot. And that's okay, too. But now maybe for one thing, the law is...
It's not going anywhere. You can always do it. It's not going anywhere.
Exactly. So I don't know, maybe keep your bargs. I don't know if you have to keep that updated or whatever, but maybe you do that just to have it there as a backup. I don't know your human design type, so I'm thinking if you're a manifesting generator, having a backup is a really good plan. But you have got to live your passion because that is what's being required of you right now.
Yeah.
In fact, Saturn is conjunct your sun, the sun in your first house.
I totally agree. That's kind of where I want to put most of my energy.
So build your business. Maybe you don't, have to stop being an attorney right now. Maybe you can be building your business, and it's a smooth transition from one to the other. But you've really got to
I'm not an attorney yet. You have to pass the bar to be an attorney. So I just did everything else. I just didn't pass the bar yet. So I'm just working.
Well, then that means that likely you would have to put so much focus on being an attorney and getting into that rat race, if you will, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but just, being able to get yourself known and, that you wouldn't you wouldn't have time to work on your chocolate or dessert business.
True. That's true. I kind of overload myself. Sometimes, you think you do it all, but I guess I'm not dealing with reality.
Yeah. Now,
but I get what you're saying.
Now, some types are designed to do that. So I'm going to tell you to do this. Go to my website, www.living-astrology.com.
Okay. living-astrology.com.
And I want you to order your free human design chart. And the reason I want you to do that is because the human design chart, more than an astrology chart, can really help me pinpoint for you what is it that you're here to do. Because if you're a manifesting generator, you're a juggler, and having two kinds of forms of income is going to work for you. But if you're a projector, you're going to be wasting so much of your energy trying to keep up that you're going to end up, getting yourself into burnout or, worse yet, into autoimmune diseases, things like that. So we really want to know what you are first before we really make a final determination here. But for sure.
But you know what? I haven't been creative. I've been repressing myself. Or is that the word?
Suppressing, repressing, oppressing.
Yes, I kind of want to do what I want to do. Like, you know what I mean? How you just went to school, but you were unhappy. I kind of want to be happy, and this is like what makes me happy.
I would kind of say that that's what you're here for. Jupiter in your natal chart is in the 5th house of happiness, joy, creativity, fun, pleasure, play. So take the risk.
Okay.
To me, this is a calculated risk that is the correct path for you. But still get your human design chart so we can verify how it is that you're meant to do that. Okay?
Okay. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks. Have a great night, ladies,
you
or
too.
Day, ladies. Thank you.
Day and night.
Yes. It's lunchtime. Thank you. Okay, that's perfect. So let's now go to caller with 1278. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hi. Who is
I'm
this?
so happy to be connected. This is Ellie.
Hi, Ellie.
Hi.
Ellie, like the one I know from having done a human design reading recently?
The very same one, Janet. So good to connect with you here.
Yay! So it's funny, your voice sounds completely different in this venue than it does when we're talking with one another on regular phone. So I've pulled up your chart. I just happen to have had that already ready to go. And tell me what it was that you wanted me to focus on.
Well, I would have to say the biggies, career and romance.
So let's see how I can condense this down for you. Right now, Neptune, the king of deception and crazy murkiness, is up at your midheaven. And the midheaven is the dividing line between expansion and growth and how you demonstrate that out in the world. So the 10th house usually comes out to be your career, your authority, how you express your authority in the world. So you have Neptune there, you have Chiron there. So this is not an easy fix for you right now at this moment. It means that things are a little bit cloudy, and it's okay. It's meant to be. But it's in the sign of Pisces, which tells me that you have a very creative destiny, or a very creative, how shall I say it, there's a very creative person within you. And what ends up being expressed in the world needs to be along those lines. Now, you could be creative in developing a business. You can be creative in art, music, and dance, and writing. So creativity is, expansive in nature. It can be anything. But you got to get some clarity, and clarity is not there right this minute. So here would be my suggestion. Uranus, king of rebellion and awakening, is moving through the 11th house in your chart, which is about vision. What do you envision for yourself, Ellie? What is it that what would you do if you knew you could not fail, and if money wasn't a consideration? What would that be? And you don't have to express that to us out loud here, but that is a big question that I want you to focus in on, because for the next 7 years now, Uranus is going to be here, jiggling you, waking you up, telling you to get out of the rut that you've been in, to dare to be different, to dare to be yourself, and to dare to live from your dreams. Okay? Now, nuts and bolts of it. For the time being, and into, let's see here. Can I give you some dates? Yes, possibly through the beginning of 2019. You're going to be experiencing Jupiter in Sagittarius as an opposition to your natal Chiron, to your natal destiny, and likely to your natal Venus. And then later in that to your natal sun. All of those planets sit in the 12th house and are hidden from you. It's almost like at times you open up the door and you peek out a little bit and you start to go out and something happens, so you slam the door, right? So it's playing hide and seek, right? I get it because I have my natal sun in the 12th house as well. I love doing radio. Why? Because you don't see me. It took me a long time to do videos because people would see me. I would have to be seen. So you're going to have to learn to come out. You're also a Gemini, so am I. So we both share this in our charts. You got to come out of the dark and into the light. And you have to do that by uncovering yourself piece by piece. Now, you might do really well as a counselor, a coach, a guide, and you're a projector. So we also know that that's one of your strengths, right? Aren't you a projector? Yes.
Yes, correct.
Yes. So we also know that that's your strength, is to guide, lead, manage, orchestrate, right? You're the orchestra, the director. So maybe it's about, coming in, getting into some form of business or a place where you can share your wisdom from the psychological as well as from the physical healing aspects. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, it does.
And one last thing in all of that, Elle, the lineup of planets, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun, and Ceres are all in your very wide 5th house, which is about joy and creativity and fun and pleasure. It's about doing what you love. So like the lady before you, Keisha, get in alignment with what you love and do what you love. That's the place to start. And as far as relationships go, which I know is also a concern of yours, Pluto is moving through your 7th house. So you're not done yet in the underworld of who you are. And I think it might be another couple of maybe several months to a year before someone really pops out that is going to fulfill that role for you. Does that make sense?
Actually, it takes off a lot of anxiety because as excited as I am to be with somebody, I know I got more work to do. So it feels good to have that confirmed by the cosmos.
Yes, cosmos. That cosmic Pluto, he's wanting empowerment. He wants you to live your life fully engaged, knowing who you are. And then later, as we move through 2019, Saturn will cross over and connect with your natal Jupiter. So then there may be somebody that comes into your life who you share authority with in your life instead of giving away your power to. Right? That's much more, or who you try to overpower and end up in a power struggle with. So all things in good time. All things coming in good time.
Janet,
right.
We only have 2 minutes left, so we need... Yeah, how fast did that hour go?
It always does. But I love the way it, always reveals itself to us piece by piece, person by person. So what was supposed to happen happened.
Yeah, Janet, I think what I'm going to take away from today is being confident and courageous, but cautiously proportional. What a great statement that was. Because it's easy to get in that flow of I can do it, the universe is going to, it's all going to flow beautifully, it's going to be fantastic, and you can actually not listen to the cautious voice. So I feel like having that alignment and really listening, you've really opened that for me today. A calculated risk seems really important.
I like calculated risk because, otherwise we are maybe being risky. So that's a good word for you to take away from this.
Yes. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed sharing the last hour with you, and I'm sure that the people that have rung in have had such fantastic help from you. So awesome. Many blessings. You. I hope you have the rest of your night is really beautiful. Thank you for the difference that you make in the world. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to another fabulous program on Angel Heart Radio. Our goal is to remind you of how much you matter in the world and to let you know that we appreciate who you are in the world. You can check out who's on, when we're on, and who our guests are at angelheartradio.com. Everything is there. It's all just one click away. Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools to help you in your life and your life experience. They are not intended, nor should they, be used to replace your medical or legal advice. The views expressed by hosts, co-hosts, callers, guests and associates should not be construed as advice from Angel Heart Radio.